Headlines. Bandits attack military checkpoint on Abuja-Kaduna highway, kill soldiers. Court sentences Abdul Malik Tanku Hashim to death by hanging. And on the foreign scene, protests against military administration paralyze Guinea capital. Hello and welcome to Trust TV News Update. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Hello and welcome once again. A military checkpoint around Zuma Rock in Niger State on Thursday night was attacked by terrorists. The area close to Madala town is a few meters away from Zuba along the Abuja-Kaduna highway. A source told Daily Trust that the attackers arrived at the spot some minutes after 7 p.m. and opened fire immediately. The attack comes amid heightened tension in the Federal Capital Territory over likely terrorist attacks. Meanwhile, Defense Headquarters says troops have eliminated 30 of the terrorists that attacked operatives of the Guards Brigade in the Bari area of the Federal Capital Territory on Sunday. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Bernard Onyeko, said this at a news conference on military operations on Thursday in Abuja. Onyeko said troops of the 7th Guards Battalion and 167 Special Forces Battalion, in conjunction with the air component of Operation Whirlpunch, carried out the operation between Sunday and Tuesday. He said the troops successfully cleared Kau and Ido villages, neutralizing the terrorists and destroying their enclave and hideout. According to him, the ground troops also recovered 6 motorcycles, 2 AK-47 rifles, and 1 fully loaded LMG magazine, among others, during mop-up. The armed forces of Nigeria have resolved to deploy a new strategy in the coming weeks to deal with the snippets of violence across the country. National Security Advisor Babagana Munguno disclosed this to newsmen at State House Abuja on Thursday at the end of an emergency National Security Council meeting convened by President Muhammadu Buhari. Major General Munguno also disclosed that the council was winding up the special investigative panel on the attack on the Kuje Correctional Center. The idea, he explained, was to come up with recommendations that would hold those responsible for security lapses that enabled the attack. The NSA, however, urged the media to tone down its reportage of insecurity, as certain reports could aggravate the delicate situation.
IT approach, whole of government approach, to get a whole of nation approach. What it means is that everybody has to partake in this enterprise. The truth is that no country can ever overcome the difficulties of an asymmetric conflict by virtue of the fact that the enemy of the state is embedded within the population, within the wider society. It is true that the local people are averse, they're scared, they're worried, and there's no confidence. That is understandable. But without their support, without their cooperation in terms of giving information, it makes it very hard for the operational elements. A few days ago, troops of the Guards Brigade were ambushed and decimated.
And now to legislative matters, where former Senate Majority Leader Abdullahi Yahaya has given an account of what transpired during the Senate closed-door session, where lawmakers decided to give President Muhammadu Buhari an ultimatum to address rising insecurity or face impeachment. Senators from opposition parties on Wednesday issued a 6-week ultimatum to the president on rising insecurity. Senator Yahaya, who defected to the opposition PDP, speaks exclusively to Trust TV.
We think that it's high time that the insecurity of this nation is addressed. And of course, we also have the issue of oil theft, which has risen, which is now making it difficult for earn income.
There was disagreement at the closed session whether on one of the issues only, that the government, the president, an ultimatum should be given to the president to level of security down. The issue was not raised up, so the minority leader raised a point of order, saying that he wants the issue that we discussed in closed session discussed. The Senate President said no, you cannot do that because we have not even agreed on the issues that are supposed to be tabled there, because some of the issues that you raised, other members also raised, have not been resolved. Therefore, since there is no resolution, then nothing can be said plenary about what we did in the executive session. Though actually there was no resolution, no nothing. So nothing has come out officially.
Similarly, the People's Democratic Party caucus in the House of Representatives has joined their counterparts in the Senate on plans to issue an impeachment notice to President Muhammadu Buhari. The opposition lawmakers made their position known after a closed-door meeting on Thursday in Abuja. Leader of the PDP caucus in the House, Ndudi Elumelu, said his colleagues are on the same page with the senators who staged a walkout of plenary on Wednesday. Elumelu noted that the security situation in the country, the dwindling value of the naira and the resurgence of crude oil theft are good enough reasons to impeach the president.
Stand to allow this nation collapse. We think that it's high time that the insecurity of this nation is addressed. And of course, we also have the issue of oil theft, which has risen, which is now making it difficult for earn income from oil revenue. And these and many others is the reason why we are joining our colleagues in the Senate to ask Mr. President to address the insecurity of this nation within 8 weeks, between 6 and 8 weeks. Otherwise, we will find the constitutional means to ensure that we will serve him an impeachment notice.
It is a bipartisan issue. We all agreed that the security architecture is failing and there's the need to salvage it immediately. And we also agreed that we must issue, for some who do not know, the issue is to issue an impeachment notice to the president, because the primary responsibility of government is the protection of lives of its citizens. Once that is not done, then there is a problem.
Meanwhile, the federal government is accusing the BBC and Trust TV for broadcasting a documentary on terrorism and banditry in Nigeria. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, said this in an interview with newsmen on Thursday in Abuja. Trust TV aired a documentary highlighting the plight of victims of kidnapping and banditry in key northern states. Mohammed said the federal government is aware of the documentary by the BBC Africa Eye, where interviews were granted to bandit warlords and terror gangs considered to be promoting terror in the country. A Kano State High Court has sentenced Abdul Malik Tanko to death by hanging after being convicted for the kidnap and killing of a 5-year-old school pupil, Hanifa Abubakar. The presiding judge, Justice Usman Abba, during a 3-hour judgment, holds that the prosecution has proved beyond reasonable doubt that Abdul Malik and the 2 others had indeed committed the crime and therefore convicted and sentenced. Idris Jibrin, who has been following the trial, filed in this report.
Abdul Malik Tanko, the principal suspect, is now sentenced to death by hanging and 5 years imprisonment. Hashim Isiaku, death by hanging and 5 years imprisonment, while Fatima Jibrin is to serve 2 years imprisonment for conspiracy and attempt to kidnap.
With regards to the kidnapping, the concealment, the punishment for that is death. And the first and second defendant were sentenced to death on those 2 offenses. And then on the offense of conspiracy, the first defendant was given 5 years, while the second defendant was given, if I'm not mistaken, 2 years. And then the third defendant was given 2 years also for the 2 offenses he was convicted on.
Nearly 5 months since Abdul Malik Tanko and 2 others were first brought before a Kano State High Court on the allegation of kidnapping and killing of 5-year-old Hanifa Abubakar. Presiding Judge Justice Usman Naba ruled that the prosecution has proved beyond reasonable doubt that Abdul Malik and his co-accused had indeed committed a crime punishable under sections 97, 274, 277, and 221 laws of Kano State.
There are about 5 head count of charges. We succeeded in 4. Of course, we succeeded in proving to the court that there was kidnapping. Hanifa was kidnapped by the first accused person, and which kidnapped was known by the second defendant, but he concealed it and did not disclose it to the security agencies. And again, thirdly, we also charged them with conspiracy, which also the court agreed with us that the 3 of them conspired to kidnap Hanifa.
Alhamdulillah.
For Hanifa's parent, justice may have been served, but the circumstances leading to the death of their daughter will forever be remembered.
From day one, I have never thought that justice will be denied. I'm therefore grateful to Almighty Allah and to everyone who has been praying for us. Thank you very much. We thank you so much for coming.
Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Meanwhile, the Federal High Court of the Federal Capital Territory on Thursday granted a 5 billion naira administrative bail, amongst other stringent conditions, to the suspended Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris. Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman reports that the trial of the suspended AGF and 3 others has also commenced, with testimonies of the first witness of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The report.
At the last sitting, counsels for the 2 parties in the fraud case against the suspended Accountant General and 3 others made oral and written submissions to the trial judge, Justice Jadeshola Ademi Ajayi, in respect of a bail application. In her ruling on Thursday, the trial judge granted bail with slight modification to the earlier administrative bail granted the accused by the EFCC.
What was done was to incorporate the conditions of bail that EFCC had already given, and then the Honorable Court added a few more, such as restricting the movement of the first defendant to Federal Capital Territory.
To me, it's sufficient enough to ensure that they are around. So, and they can't travel even to neighboring adjoining state without the leave of this court. I think that's sufficient enough. So, and the other conditions added to them, they can't transport travel outside the country. The international passports are before the court, and then the directors who are to stand sureties and permanent secretary. I think those are sufficient conditions.
In line with the accelerated hearing order earlier granted by the trial judge, prosecution counsel Rotimi Jacobs, SAN, presented his first witness, Hayatuddin Ahmed, who told the court under cross-examinations how 4 groups allegedly converted into US dollar and shared the sum of 84.39 billion naira from the Federation account. He also narrated how the first accused subverted existing financial regulations, such as the Treasury Single Account TSA and others, to pave way for the alleged fraud, whose proceeds were said to have been used to buy properties in Kano, Abuja, and Minna.
It's a case that they are mostly documentary, the movement of funds. So we just got a few witnesses, and we should be able to conclude very soon.
The nature of this case is such that we may have to even issue subpoenas to subpoena and invite to court certain persons who we feel are very critical to the resolution of the thorny issues in this matter. Because from what we have already seen, there are certain things that the people of this country need to know about. You have been hearing about the groups and all that. So these are things that as the trial progresses, the questions will throw more light on this.
Defense counsel pleaded with the court to give him more time to confer with his client to address the conflicting statements. The case is now adjourned to the 10th and 11th of August for further hearing. Shapiro Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
You're watching Trust TV News Update. And still to come on the news, why second-hand materials are becoming popular. Details of this and more after the break. Do stay with us.
That's great. It's good to see you.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us on Trust TV News Update. Now, a recap of our top stories. Bandits attack military checkpoint on Abuja-Kaduna Highway, kill soldiers. And court sentences Abdul Malik Tanko to death by hanging. Moving on to other news now. The need to effectively raise awareness on the public health threat of hepatitis to communities and individuals as a way of bridging the care gap to reduce the disease's prevalence has again been emphasized. It came to the fore via a community drive in parts of the Federal Capital Territory organized by the Center for Family Health Initiative on the occasion of the 2022 World Hepatitis Day, with focus on free testing for vulnerable groups who are more at risk of infection and transmission. The report.
Hepatitis disease burden in Nigeria, according to the Federal Ministry of Health, has become worrisome as an estimated 20 million people are infected with hepatitis B or C in the country. This, the ministry says, causes chronic infection with attendant morbidity and mortality as a result of lack of awareness, detection and access to care.
As pregnant mothers, we do our normal routine test. And then hepatitis, we have hepatitis A, B, C, D, and E. And so in this hepatitis, as we are pregnant, we do our screening, which hepatitis B and C definitely compulsorily you must do it.
To eradicate the disease among populations in hard-to-reach communities, expectant mothers are offered free screening and referral services.
In the hand of the government, I can say, though they are trying in their own way, to make sure that this hepatitis gets eradicated. You understand, they are trying on their own way. So that is why we as an organization as well, we come together to do the test free, to test the community members who come to a rural community like this to do the testing free of charge, because we discovered that most of these mothers, they don't have the understanding of this hepatitis. They don't even know the impact of how this is going to affect their unborn children.
They have told us about about how it's dangerous to our health. So it's a good thing for me today. I'm happy about it. But I'm a partaker of those who are going to be. At least I should know my status. I know how to take care of my child and myself.
Grace Aggie discovered her positive status about 2 months ago. despite access to management services. Now in her third trimester, she fears for her life and that of her unborn child.
No, they say that I cannot treat it until after the pregnancy. Then when I give birth, that they are going to inject my baby before I start breastfeeding the child. So for to be contacted until I deliver before I start the food treatment.
Findings have revealed that many people are unaware of their hepatitis status and the importance of vaccines in prevention. This informed the need for local, national and international health organizations to use the World Hepatitis Day to help address issues around the disease's burden as a public health threat and create awareness on accessibility and availability of vaccines and management techniques. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, the use of second-hand items in Nigeria is quite popular and is often triggered by a lack of strong purchasing power. In this report, Chamun Dabeng explores Nigeria's second-hand economy.
Whether you call it bend down select, okrika, tokumbo or thrift, the fact is it is almost impossible to overstate the importance of the social construction that goes into buying and selling of second-hand items in Nigeria today. Nigerians have become so dependent on second-hand items that you can always find something fairly used to buy.
From furniture, clothing, everyday electrical appliances, phones and even cars, all for a fraction of the original price. Recent figures released by the United Nations shows that 80% of Africans wear second-hand clothes, while Nigeria happens to be one of the largest importers of second-hand items. Today we find out why in Panteka Market located in the FCT.
I've been here for like at least 5 years selling these kind of materials, including beds, wardrobe, TV stand, dressing mirror, I mean the whole house interior, anything that has to do with house interior. I decided to be part of this business. Let me just splash back a little. I graduated from Nasarawa State University, Kefi. So after my graduation, I realized that job has now become a hot cake. Government job has become a hot cake. So I just give an advice to myself. Let's assume I never been to school. What will I do for a living? Alhamdulillah, we thank God. The business is moving so fine and is profitable. If not as a result of all these problems and obstacles, I would have said I prefer to be here than to have a 300,000 job.
There are some people who renovate their houses who needed those things to be moved away. So these people buy them and we buy from them. Some of these things they sell are high quality, even more than the one in the shop. Sometimes I don't have money for new ones. And again, there are some of the imported materials, goods. There are some of these big men in Abuja, they usually renovate their houses. So they buy new ones and they make their way with the old ones. The old ones find their way in this market and you can buy those ones cheap and high quality things from here.
The use of pre-owned pieces in Nigeria is not peculiar. The expansion of the market dates back to the 1950s and 1960s, where Okrika in Rivers State was the only port where second-hand items from Europe could arrive. As of today, Nigeria's second-hand economy continues to thrive. Chamun Dabeng, Trust TV News, Abuja.
And now for a look at the foreign scene, where protests against Guinea's military government and its handling of plans to return to democracy have brought the capital to a standstill, with organizers saying one person was killed. The National Front for the Defense of the Constitution said one person died after being hit by a bullet in the Conakry suburb of Hamdallah, while several others had been injured during the protests on Thursday. The FNDC is an influential political coalition that called for the demonstrations last week to condemn the military's unilateral management of a return to civilian rule after it seized power in 2021. And that wraps up Trust TV News Update for this hour. For more news, you can subscribe to watch us live on YouTube and follow us across all our social media platforms. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Thanks for watching.